Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, Global Strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, good afternoon. Thank you for coming on today.
Good afternoon.
Well, stocks on Wall Street closed higher overnight. Earnings still strong, but we're waiting on the jobs report due out Friday morning, and we can talk about that in just a minute. But the S&P in particular at a new all-time high, though. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, Dow Jones went up by 0.78% and broke the 35,000 level again. And S&P 500 hit the 4,429, rising by 0.6%. And also NASDAQ is near the all-time high, rising by 0.78%, close to 15,000 level. And even the small and mid-cap stocks were up by 1.72%. Clearly, quite significant recovery from the previous session sell-off as investors continue to monitor a strong earnings seasons. So far, there have been about 340 companies out of 500 have reported the earnings, and the record high level of 87.6% have bit the profit estimations, and the level of the additional profit that they're showing is historical high. So clearly the earnings are showing a very significant growth, and therefore markets are continuing to be showing a rising trend. Furthermore, the number of Americans filing new claims for unemployment benefits fell to a second straight week to 385,000 in the week of July 31st. This is pretty much broadly in line with the market expectation of 384,000. So it's confirming that the labor market is progressing its recovery. So with this, overall, the economy seems to be fairly stable. Earnings are record high level, and we think that the U.S. market rising trend should further continue.
Well, back to that U.S. jobs report for July, coming around at 8:30 Friday morning Eastern Standard Time. Estimates are all over the place, ranging from an increase of around 350,000 all the way up to more than 1 million. What are you looking for in terms of U.S. employment?
Right. Friday's job report seems to be a wild card, while the various economists' estimations are all over the map. Now, the estimation is saying that the economy added about 840,000 jobs in July, about the same as June job growth, according to the economist poll by the Dow Jones. Economists mostly expect strong growth for the next couple of months, but the Delta variant of COVID-19 has become a wild card for the both labor market and economic growth recovery. Still, the uncertainty shows up in a wide range of forecasts for the job July. It varies from anywhere between 350,000 to 1.2 million. Obviously, we have to wait and see how that plays out. But in overall cases, we do think that the labor market recovery is not going to be full scale with the fourth industrial revolution that's happening in the market, with the COVID-19 affecting somewhat, given the fact that the home working is actually continued to be very strong, and the current changes that we are seeing in the labor market is definitely here to stay rather than change. If you look at the occupancy ratio of the office space of New York, it's still at only 30% or less. So clearly there's been a change in terms of how people are working. So staying at home and doing working is changing to such a rapid pace that we think that the overall the labor market is changing in terms of its structure.
Right, and then here in Korea today, both the KOSPI and the KOSDAQ were a little weak. On the KOSPI, though, both retail and foreign investors were net buyers, and with its IPO shares, of course, of the internet-only lender Kakaobank were up around 40% or 30% from the opening price. Tell us about the domestic market.
Right. If you look at the domestic market, the liquidity is quite ample. With this Kakao listing, quite a bit of money came in to play this market, and the customer deposit is hitting as high as about 70 trillion won, which is one of the record level that we have been seeing in the past. So clearly, the domestic money are flowing into the equity market. In terms of the fundamentals, if you look at the overall economy, we are seeing the manufacturing PMI reasonably okay, expanding, and in terms of the export numbers, it's showing quite a good number. All in all, domestic consumption seems to be reasonably okay, even though the high level of the consumer credit as percentage of GDP. In terms of the valuation, furthermore, we are seeing very cheap multiples, and therefore we think that there's some more room for further rise. I think that the most important factor for Korean market to further improve in the future would be the level of payout ratio of the Korean corporation. If the payout ratio hits as high as 50%, which is the average of the global corporations, then the dividend yield will rise to 4% plus. If that's the case, then Korean market will be in a very good position to further rise. We will have to wait and see how the Korean company plays out in terms of the payout ratio regarding dividend.
Indeed. And finally, if we could talk a bit about trade for a minute. In July, Korea posted another current account surplus. So that's 14 months in a row now, and that it's been in the black. And the surplus was much bigger than the same month last year. The surplus grew pretty much for every region. What's the latest on the trade front?
Yes, South Korea's current account surplus widened to US dollar 8.85 billion in June of 2021, from 7.16 billion in the same month 1 year earlier. The goods account surplus expanded to 7.62 billion from 6.18 billion a year ago, while the service deficit narrowed to 0.95 billion from the 1.35 billion a year ago. Clearly, there is a definite income surplus rising. The fundamentals of Korea's current account is improving. This kind of trend is happening because of the competitiveness of the Korean corporations are improving in a global scale. As we know, the semiconductor, the batteries, the electric cars, to the traditional manufacturing industries, Korea are doing all well in terms of export, and the foreign investors' net selling has been quite significant in the past, but direct investment is actually improving as well. So overall, current account surplus widens. If that's the case, we think that the Korean market is in good position to further rise in the near future.
All right, Mr. Yu, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us as always, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.